All right, let's just hop into it then. I think we've got good critical mass here, and we'll let everyone else kind of roll in when they do. And I do want to jump right into it because I want to make sure we're getting to the meat on these things sooner than later. I think we've been dragging out the intro more than is needed, and I really do want to make sure these things stay valuable. Now that we're doing the monthly themes, I want you to feel like you've got something each week that you're coming away with, but really at the end of the month, you should feel like you have an overarching process. So when we send you kind of the month-long summary, which we will for all attendees, you'll have kind of a clear deck covering the topic. So today, we're going to be jumping into the second part of our sales follow-up strategy. That's the theme for the month. And we're going to be focusing on the seller's experience and some follow-up tactics related to that. Who am I? Why should you care? If it's your first time on the Lunch and Learn, check out BN.Digital, check out BizNexus. Those are my companies. So BizNexus is our platform for auction-based deal flow, intermediary-based deal flow. If you're looking to buy a business, or if you're an intermediary and you're looking to get your deals out there in front of buyers. And BN.Digital is for off-market deal flow. We're a digital agency exclusively focused on M&A. This is all we do. And the tactics that we talk about week in, week out on these calls all pretty much come from our agency. So we're kind of taking plays from our playbook and sharing those with you. We use a process called social selling. And that is basically leveraging all the tools that are available online with data, with social platforms to build up your reputation in your specific industry, in your geographic territory, if that's what you're focused on, so that you can build up a network of end prospects, business owners, and referral prospects that can help contribute, can help bring you those end prospects on an ongoing basis. So financial advisors, accountants, lawyers, niche consultants, depending on what you're focused on. And we have 5 stages to the process. I'm not going to go through those now because I am trying to rush through this a bit. But the 5 stages really reflects the fact that this is a long game. Deal origination is not a one shot, one kill lead generation game. This is a high ticket commission if you're an intermediary, or if you're looking to buy a business. If you're looking to buy one business, that's going to take time. And you'll need to get in front of multiple companies. You'll need to have multiple follow-ups, and that's exactly what we're covering today. Deal flow funnel, basically just from dirt to dinner table. How do you land a transaction? How do you get a transaction done from first approach, beginning, first conversation, familiarizing your prospect with who you are, what you do, how your services and solutions meet their pain points, and nurturing that prospect through to the end result, which here we call the cup of coffee. It's the proverbial cup of coffee, right? So we want to turn these online relationships into an offline engagement, right? To an offline transaction, hopefully, but really a cup of coffee and a conversation with somebody who really fits the bill from targeting standpoint, and you continue to develop that real relationship offline. But we start all of our processes online with social selling. Updates today, no big ones. Check out our nurture funnel and CRM if you like what we're talking about on the sales and follow-up series this month. We cover all of that with our funnel, with our CRM. If you have your own, you can definitely implement the majority of the strategies that we're talking about, hopefully with the CRM that you're using. If not, that's what the Q&A is for here, and we're always happy to answer questions for clients and non-clients alike. You can access our services at BizNexus.com and BN.Digital for the agency. So this month, we are staying in this territory, the nurture and capture phase of the social selling process. And it's really relevant right now. I've had a few conversations this week with intermediaries specifically who are concerned about loading up their deal pipeline. It seems like some sellers out there just, it's been a big year in 2020. There were a lot of closings. What's happening in 2021 with all the noise that we're seeing out there in mainstream media, this week? Where's this year going to go? We're expecting a really big year. We like the macro environment for business acquisition and sale. We've had a flood of new buyers, and but there is there is that seller that just doesn't want to sell right now, right? They're not cash flow positive. They're not in a position to be a good commission for a business broker. If you're a Main Street business broker and you're looking at these cash flow SDE positive businesses, maybe some of those businesses are struggling right now. They're just not in the best position to sell. And so what do you want to do? You want to stay in front of them. You want to make sure that you have a good sales follow-up strategy over time, right? And that's what we're covering in the series. So last week we covered setting up your playbook. If you didn't see that, just go back to our site. We put all of these up on the live site. They're freely accessible today. That's not going to be the case by the end of the quarter. And then today we're going to be focusing on the seller's experience and more follow-up tactics related to that. Why is this important? Again, I say this every week, but you've got to look at the 99% rule. So 99% of the prospects in this industry, in deal origination, in business acquisition and sale, especially, simply will not be ready to discuss a business valuation, what their exit plans might be, really anything about what they're going to be doing with their business for an exit on first approach. They don't know you. It's a very sensitive topic. They don't know if you're good at what you do. They've seen no social proof. There are confidentiality issues with competitors, with their employees. So the main exception being, especially in today's environment, if something has happened, right? So are they being forced to sell? Is their company in a position where something has to happen? Or, are there life occurrences like divorce or health? That's the dumb luck timing approach where you just nail somebody right at the right time. They fit their targeting and they happen to be motivated to sell. So you wind up getting a company under engagement. But for the most part, staying in front of the 99% who aren't ready, that's an important process from a marketing standpoint and from a sales standpoint. And that's why we're focusing in on that this month. So for today's presentation, I sniped a couple slides from a presentation I did, I guess 2 years ago. It was 3 years ago, 2 years ago for the IBBA, and it was on inbound marketing for business brokers. And that's when everybody was talking about digital marketing being the future for business brokerage. And here we are today in a COVID world where this is all so relevant. But the gist of that presentation when I started out was just the fact that marketing to business owners has completely changed with the smartphone, with Google, with the ability for your prospect to learn a whole lot more about you before they actually reach out and have that first conversation, right? So making sure that when they do the research, everything is covered. That was really the topic for that presentation. Really drilling home the point that this is another slide from that presentation, obviously, 2018. There we go. So basically the large majority of decisions are made online before connecting in person. That's true in every industry. And that has very much taken over M&A and business acquisition and sale over the past couple of years. It's accelerated and the industry has really caught up. It's amazing how far along the industry has come just over the past couple of years in terms of marketing itself online and capturing this type of traffic, this type of opportunity. So as part of that presentation, I also went through the seller's journey, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, but it's really important when we're taking a step back and looking at why this sales follow-up process, having a clear process in place, is so important. So for my presentation that I did back in 2018, we had Seller Bob, this guy with the gray hair here, and I walked through Seller Bob's experience, right? Going from running a company to successfully selling a company with a business broker. And Seller Bob, going from left to right, you start with awareness, right? So he's made aware of the options for him by selling a business or a business valuation. And this is a cold approach, right? So this is, as a business broker, maybe you've, in the old world, it could be billboard or newspaper, magazine, radio, that kind of thing. But in today's world, with everything that we preach, it's probably a cold email or LinkedIn approach or, snail mail or a phone call. But you're making this person aware of who you are and what you do. And then from there, what does Bob do? Bob's made aware of it, and he goes straight to Google, right? He starts researching business valuations, right? Business brokers near me. How do I sell my company? And so the importance of making sure that you are findable as a business broker, that's something that I covered in the presentation. So making sure that you check the boxes in terms of organic search and the local directories and everything that you need to do from an SEO standpoint, the majority of that being free, by the way, but making sure that you are findable, and that when they're searching, you also don't have anything that hurts your reputation, but you really have a lot of stuff out there that helps your reputation, helps establish you as a qualified authority in your niche industry, in your niche focus. So make sure you don't have any red flags. That's the first thing that you don't want to have for a seller who's potentially looking at you as somebody to steward the transaction of a lifetime. You want to make sure that your online brand has no red flags out there, negative reviews, bad website, et cetera, but you want to make sure that they find content specifically that helps establish you and establish your reputation in the industry. So, blogs, articles, LinkedIn articles, testimonials, reviews, et cetera, until the seller gets to this final area where they convert, where you get the engagement, right? And so then we covered really what you want to have on your website in terms of call to action and the lead hooks, and how you need to have reviews, you need to have testimonials, so that when seller Bob comes and he sees other happy sellers who have had a good experience with you, that counts for so much in today's world. So that is what I walked through a few years ago, and that still is all very, very true, right? You need to make sure that all of this is done, that you've taken care of each stage of this as a broker, so you can pull seller Bob through this kind of funnel to the point of conversion. But what we're advocating today is don't just leave it up to the prospect in their journey. Let's put in a system for making sure that you stay in front of them from first contact to conversion. So what does that look like with the sales follow-up process that we're talking about this month? Again, first approach, it's not a billboard, it's not an ad, it's not a radio. It's probably something like email, LinkedIn, phone, snail mail, what we preach week in, week out here. Now, if you're going to lead with snail mail, I always recommend you follow that up with email, right? Follow it up with something trackable, because snail mail, very effective, but a business owner might just take that flyer that you made and spend your time on and mailed out. They might put it in a desk, and maybe they pull it back out 3 years from now. You have no idea, right? You send the flyer and there's no data on that. Doesn't mean it's not effective, because it is. It's still a great tool, and I think it always will be. It can even be a standout tool if you're writing a personal letter or something that very few people are doing these days. That can leave an impression, but you won't have any data. So in my opinion, you need to follow with something trackable, like an email, and track opens, resend to people who haven't opened it. Just make sure that the value proposition that you put in that nice physical flyer is getting in front of the seller via email, and then pull them into your LinkedIn network so they can be exposed to your social selling process, again, that we cover week in, week out here. And then ideally you have either, you have phone calls throughout, depending on sales tasks that are based on engagement, which is what we're going to be covering. But if you're going to follow a direct mail, email invitation, LinkedIn in network with a phone call, that phone call will be made with all the data that matters. So you'll be able to see, seller Bob has opened up your email 3 times. Seller Bob is in your LinkedIn network, right? Or they're not in your LinkedIn network yet. And you'll arm yourself with that information before you make that first call, which is really, really valuable. Moving into the findability section, 3 years ago and today, but 3 years ago, I was covering how you want to make sure that you have your local directory set up, right? Your Google, and you have if you haven't done a directory, used a directory tool to make sure that you have consistency with your business name and address. That all counts with Google, so that you're actually getting found, so you're being included in a local organic search in the Google snack pack, right? I'm not going to cover that now, but that's still very important. But with sales follow-up in this area, you want to make sure that once you pull them in to your social right after the first approach, you get them in the social that matters. So if you're active on Twitter, if you're active on LinkedIn, if you're active on any of these niche social platforms in their industry, that's the tactic, right? And you want to make sure that you're posting. If you're in LinkedIn, you want to make sure you're using lead lists so that you can see their activity very clearly in your Sales Navigator feed. When they post, it'll pop up in your Sales Navigator feed, and you can engage with them. It can be a like here, a like there. If it's not too salesy and you can slip it in, put in the comment, preferably on the topics that are relevant to what it is that you're doing in your industry, but you stay in front of them, you stay engaged, you stay top of mind, right? And again, that doesn't have to be LinkedIn or Twitter. It can be these niche industry communities or publications, just making sure that you're hanging out in the pool where they are. It can be a group, so that you stay visible in their world. Getting into the next phase of your sales tactics and your follow-up. Once you make that first approach and once you get them into your social, I highly recommend you find a way to get them into your newsletter so that you can send a newsletter each month and you're tracking that, right? What I mean by tracking is just have total visibility into who is on the list, who's opening, who's clicking what, and their reasons for that I can go through. And then the key sales tasks based on engagement. Remember, Bob, this journey could be a couple of years here, right? It's not a week. This could be, he might meet with an intermediary years before he actually sells. It depends on if he's planning ahead or if there's some sort of life situation that accelerates the sale timeline. But the sales tasks should be set up in the same way regardless, and that should be based on engagement. So now going through those stages, just a quick follow-up. Again, first approach, email, LinkedIn, snail mail, phone. Those are the 4 tools that we love, right? Make sure you're tracking everything. Make sure you're set up to monitor opens, click-throughs. All of that matters when you get into your CRM and sales-based tasks, right? So if they've opened, if you've contacted them, and then if you've had a Zoom meeting, and then if you've actually met in person and that they've committed, ideally with your CRM, you're tracking everything at each stage of the funnel. So track on first approach. Social engagement, again, the strategy, get in network, don't only post, make sure that you're strategically engaging. That can be messaging, that can be liking, that can be just staying in front of them, making sure that you're showing up consistently in their feeds and the groups where they're actually spending time. Newsletter, this is a big one, very, very big, especially for the business owners who just simply aren't online, right? If you've sent an email and you send a snail mail, you want to get them into your newsletter and keep a schedule. So do it at a monthly pace. That's what I recommend. Have VAs or your admins do 90% of it. So if you're putting in articles or blog posts, you should really be only on the hook as an intermediary for an intro in your voice, and everything else should be set up and pretty much duplicated each month with the content swapped out. So articles updated, blog posts, if you're doing that, or if you have someone writing those for you, you make sure those are updated. And you want to have trackable content that clearly shows intent. So what I mean by that is if you have a blog post, let's say you're sharing your own blog posts in your newsletter, which is ideal, right? If you have a blog post on business valuation, that shows intent. So if you're sending that out to a list of 3,000 people and you see 20 people click on that business valuation blog post, right? Maybe it's very specific. Maybe it's about how to do a business valuation for an HVAC company. Well, you want to know who those people are who are clicking through. And so ideally with your newsletter software, you can see that. You can see who's clicked on that, and then you can set up a sales task for that, right? So you could have your VA go through once a month after your newsletter, take a look and assign sales tasks for the people who clicked on selling an HVAC company, how to value your HVAC company if you're a broker focused on the HVAC space. That's really great, especially when it comes to proprietary content, to your own content, if you're tracking that on your website, because when they click through, not only will you be able to see their intent, but you can also have focus CTAs. So you can have a call to action to get them to schedule a meeting about their HVAC company business valuation, right? So this is all just capturing them through. Each newsletter, last thing I'll say about that piece, it should have a clear call to action on each newsletter so that when your prospect is ready to pick up the phone and have a confidential conversation with you about a business valuation or their exit plan, or just who the buyers might be in this type of crazy environment that we're heading into in 2021, that's something that matters. And that's something that we see a lot of, with the business owners who we have coming through our platform and who our intermediaries are working with and who our buyers are approaching day in, day out as part of their acquisition strategy. You do have a lot of sellers, if they're hesitant right now, they want to know who the potential buyers are, what's going on with multiples, what's going on when the dust settles and we're hopefully past COVID and the political turmoil. What does this look like for a selling environment? So right now, today, January 13th, is actually a really good time to reach out to those prospects and just have a chat about who the potential buyers are in this market and what we're expecting Q2, Q3. Your CTA can be something that clearly steers them towards that. So keeping it relevant, making sure that you're constantly tracking and luring people into a meeting with your newsletter. That's the intent, staying top of mind, but having it be one big lead, track and capture. That's the point of a newsletter, in addition to staying top of mind. In your CRM, you should have sales tasks set up, right? That's primarily, we're talking about lead scoring. So you can have your admin or your VA go through after the newsletter and assign you sales tasks, call tasks for the people who are clicking on strategic articles in your newsletter. But with your CRM, this should be 100% automated, right? So with lead scoring, if someone is in an email campaign about a business valuation, you can have a lead score that, again, if it's based on 1 to 100, maybe they're getting 10 points for each email click. And if they get to 60, an automatic task is assigned to you to lob a call in, right? And trackable media clicks. So if you have that blog article, for example, on business valuation, HVAC business valuation, to stay with that example, if someone is clicking on that, if they're contact type business owner and they're selling, the HVAC business owner, and they're clicking on that article about the blog article about selling an HVAC company, maybe you assign them 50 points, right? That's a hot lead, but it should be automated. Total visits to a website, key page visits, like anybody who visits your Sell a Business with Me webpage or your business valuation webpage, if they visit that a couple times, well, make sure that turns into a sales task, right? So you can assign that person, a visitor to your business valuation page, could be assigned like 40 points on a scale of 1 to 100, because that that's somebody who you want to get in front of, who you want to make that sales call with. Social page interaction, for our nurture funnel, for our software, we can see who's engaging with your social. So, if you're pursuing a social selling strategy and you're bringing in the business owners and the referral prospects that matter, you want to know if those people are engaging with your social. So that's where that really becomes effective over time. Forms, ad views, that's obvious. You're not going to get a seller filling out a form unless you're giving something away of clear value that's hyper specific. So for the most part, you want to track these things like page visits and email clicks and specific media clicks that clearly show intent. But the point is, the lead scoring is your first automation weapon with staying in front of prospects mid to bottom of the funnel over time. And over time, that could be over years, right? So you want to make sure that you have sales tasks being created for these business owners. Once you get them at the top of the funnel, they could be in mid to bottom of the funnel for years. That's just the industry that we're in. So setting that up will save your time, but it won't let those people fall through the cracks when they actually start to show intent when they're doing the research. So that's it for today. Let's zip back up to the schedule. Next week, we'll cover adding value, building trust, basically just what to do with articles, what to do with Zoom webinars, everything that you can do mid to bottom of the funnel, and how to track it as part of your sales follow-up strategy. So making sure that you have those strategic actions that are geared towards adding value, building trust as part of your sales follow-up strategy. That's what we'll cover next week. So unless there are any questions, I will cut it off as I always do. I say these things will be 15 minutes, but they always do typically go half an hour. So I'm working on it. If you have any feedback, let me know. We want to keep this thing valuable. We're focusing on sales follow-up strategy for the month. So any questions related to sales follow-up strategy or other themes that you'd want me to cover from month to month, I'm all ears. So let us know. Have a great week, and we'll chat next time, guys. Thanks.